So in this video, I'll be showing you the small tools of Ultitools. The bigger tools will have their own videos because they need their explanations, but a lot of these do not, or they need a very short showcase. So let's start. So the first thing is, let's make a new blend thing here, and let's just go to here. And let's find the first tool. Okay. So actually the first thing you should know is that there's a lot of tools here and you will never need all of these. So you can go here and just literally disable all of them or just have the ones you need. Because, you know, there's a lot of stuff here. But let's start. So the scene tools is the first tab and it has two tools. You can move a collection to a scene with a simple click, and you can realize instances, which are, you usually get instances when you accidentally do something like this. You just mindlessly drop one of your assets here and you'll be like, oh wait, I can't do anything. I can't go into edit mode. You're stuck. These packed assets are usually something you can't do anything with. And it's even worse because they look correct. So you might have this situation where you have a bunch of these and suddenly, oh, I can't edit them. You can do this, you can realize them as instances, but then, oh, the materials are, they're also packed. So you would have to go here and individually realize them. And with materials, it's not even really possible. You can do it here with the mesh, but materials are strange. I'm not sure what they thought with that stuff, but the solution is just you select your broken or locked asset and just do realize instances, and it cleans the whole thing. All the materials are editable, the mesh is fine. So it's a small thing, but you'd be surprised that this can save your ass in a situation. And let's go to the next tool, which is move to collection. So let's say you have a collection called plants, and you quickly want to get this to its own scene. So you just click this and create a new scene with the name of the collection and use the collection name. You can use your own as well, but we'll use the collection name because that's the fastest way. And just hit OK, and it will disappear. And if you go here, it will be in its own dedicated scene. Very cool. So in the scene tools, there is this very useful tool for object organization called sort by size. Now, if we have this enabled without any of the settings like align objects or combine hierarchies, then it will just put them in collections like so. But it will sort the collections by size. So it still might be useful, but this is the least destructive workflow. Then we have the align objects, which will actually move them along with their categories. So now they're row-wise aligned by size. So that can be useful if you want to showcase all assets in a scene very quickly, or export them as this. Now the last and the most destructive is the combine hierarchies. Now this is from Sketchfab, and a lot of these FBX hierarchies, especially when you come from 3ds Max or Maya, they use empties in their hierarchies. And when you export something from Blender that has empties, you get a strange things. So what you actually want is you want to collapse these into a single mesh, usually by root object. And it looks something like this. So now everything is a single mesh object. And this is a lot easier to export than the nested hierarchies. A vertex measure. So this is something you probably think what this is. It's not measure it. So there's a tool called measure it, and it is hidden in the, it's a free add-on, but it's a bit broken at this current moment. I don't know why, but it used to work just fine. But I think this is just a thing with free tools. They just break because there is no incentive to maintain them. So I made my own. So I made my own with a few upgrades, and I simplified it a bit because I think the Measure It tool has a lot of stuff you never need. So you simply enable this with Control Shift Q, or just click this button. And you select two vertices and you just do Control Shift W. And that's it. You can call this whatever and it will update. You can have multiple of these. And you can remove it. You can remove this by just selecting those two vertices and just do Control Shift W again. So it's really easy to add these. They update with the mesh, like so. Just don't do too crazy. Like if you do this, it might get confused. So you have to do it again. So it supports some kind of mesh deformation, but not too extreme. So be a bit careful with that. If you do some extreme transformations, you can also just disable the auto update. So you might need these, so they will stay there pretty much forever, even if you refresh it. Well, yeah, if you refresh it, it's gonna, of course, update. So be careful with this. Another thing is it supports modifiers. So the other tool didn't really update with the modifiers, but this, let's put the auto update back on. So this will actually keep track of the visual mesh transformation, which is very important if you're doing 3D printing, for example. You really want to know exactly the dimensions here. And you might think, oh, it's just edge measurement. Edge measurement is all you need, really. You can get everything. You can get the diameter if you use Blender's own vertex tools. You can get all of the measurements. Like here we have the radius and the diameter, and it will just work. You know, very cool stuff. That's pretty much it. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than this, in my opinion. So that's where I left it. That's it. Let's go to the next tool. So mesh tools. We have a capsule. No idea why Blender doesn't have a capsule. It's always been something that's strange. There isn't a native capsule. There is something in the, I think it's mesh tools or more. Oh, I forgot the name, but there was a tool that had this specific shape. But this is a very cool shape because the capsule can be used to make limbs, like these like pseudo limbs, and you can really quickly create some kind of I like this method more. You can very quickly create these skeletons just for visualization or explanation or whatever. Another tool, let's go to the cutter now. So let's say we have some kind of donut, for example, and we want a very specific cut. Like let's say we want to cut it here. You could think that, oh, just use bisect. So if we, oh, that's the wrong one. There it is. You could just think that, oh, you could just use bisect, right? But bisect, the bisect, where is it? The problem with this is that, let's undo it. The bisect doesn't really make two objects, and it doesn't really fill. It does fill, never mind. But it doesn't separate the object into two different objects, so this is why this is more useful. Like so, you can just cut it and boom, it's filled, no problem. And you might think, why do you need an object? Why wouldn't you just cut it? Well, there's a use case for this. Actually, it's a modern use case. It initially wasn't made for this, but if you have some kind of AI generated mesh, if you're commissioned to fix AI generated meshes, which is something you might have to do someday probably, You can make these very intricate, I'll show you, these very specialized cutters, which can get through the cracks and crevices of the manifold meshes, because all the AI generated slop, they're all just manifold blobs. So you have to like cut them into pieces. It's hard to explain. I'm not gonna show those meshes here, but with this tool you can really scalpel yourself in those situations to get like the specific. You can cut out the crap from the AI mesh to clean it up. It's really hard to explain, but this hopefully visualizes the usefulness of this kind of tool. And you can of course visualize the cutter. I should have had that enabled. So if you're wondering, oh, which one is the cutter, which one is the target, well, this will show you exactly. The active object is always the target. So you will never get, and you can change the thickness of this. Sometimes if you get close to this, oh fuck, hold on. You'll see that there's like this gap, and it's controlled by this specifically. So pretty simple. Pretty simple stuff. So next tool is the Smart Merge. Now, if you use quick boolean, or I guess it's called bool tool, bool tool works. It's a fine tool, but sometimes it doesn't really handle like broken meshes. You have like in this case, there's some internal faces. It doesn't handle them. It doesn't understand, and it will cause confusion. Like this bottom ball didn't get cut at all. So simply, this is just a better way to do this. So look at that. It's a lot cleaner. There's no crap inside. And it's fully manifold. Ooh. Yeah, very simple. You can change these settings to make it better or worse. So you can change the boolean solver here. Very useful stuff. So the reseam is like a hidden gem. I use it a lot in a very specific situation, and just showing you will... So sometimes you might have this kind of situation. Oh, the humanity. How do I get the internals of this? And you can just do reseam, and it will seam only the selection boundary. It's such a simple thing, but having this kind of ability allows you to very quickly, like I'll show you. So if we do coplanar here, when you reseam, coplanar, reseam, coplanar, reseam, you can very quickly see how suddenly, oh, it's unwrapped. So it's a very specific way of unwrapping using selection. That's it. It's a simple tool, and it's very useful. And if you don't like the seams or the sharps, there's a reason why these are here by default. That's because it's very easy to remove the sharps. So this is never a problem. So the next tool is the symmetrize vertex colors. And it's pretty simple. If you have some situation where you forgot to symmetrize, you could just click this, choose an axis, and a side. Pretty simple. So let's say you have a bunch of vertex groups. Let's give these some weights first. Like so. And let's say you have a bunch of these, like 3. Now, if you want to edit one of these, the other ones won't update. So you simply select all of them and do link active shape key to selection. And now if you edit this, they all update. And you have to do it for each shape key. You can also clear it with the same button, so it will not be permanent. You can also select vertices that are shape keyed, but it only works for the active object. So if you're not sure which vertices are being controlled, This will show you. You can also reset the data. So if you, let's say you don't like this shape key, you want to do something other with this one, you just do this one. And it will reset the shape key data just for the active one. If you want to do all of them, you just do reset all. And you'll have a blank slate where you can just do the shape keys from scratch, like so. And this only works if you have vertex groups, so make sure you have something. So let's say we have like ear R, and let's quickly paint this, like so. And the first operator will symmetrize this. So it will create a copy of it, and it will make sure it's on the other side. Pretty straightforward. But it only works if you have the R or L naming scheme. So make sure you have this. Then we have average connected weights. So if you have a selection of weights, like this, and you do average, it will smooth all of those weights just on your selection. So it's a bit like this, but it's more selection based. It's not a tool per se. Another thing is the copy. So it will take your active selection and copy it to all of the selected, like that. And it works inverse as well. So if you want to get rid of these, we can see that it cleared it, like so. It's a bit faster than using this, the vertex weight panel. You can use copy here as well, but this is a bit more clearer because it doesn't leave the empty weights. It will actually remove it as well. So let's go to the sculpt tools. And this has been a really old tool. I think this was the very first tool actually. So you can simply choose some kind of selection, like maybe even with our vertex groups, we can choose a selection and we can mask the selection. So now if we do some modifications to this, it will only affect this. So you can go crazy. Like let's say you don't want to touch these eyes. Like so, and you can do mask selection. Now just this will work. And if you do invert, it will of course invert. So all of the control I, the Blender specific mask tools, which are here, they will work. It's just an extension. Speaking of extension, you can extend the mask as well. So let's say we want to add more to a current mask. You can also remove it with the same method. Very useful. And of course you can save this as a vertex group. So now if we go to weight paint mode, we can see that all of that vertex, that weight data was converted to vertex group data, or the mask data was converted to vertex group data. You can also do the inverse. So if you smooth this like so, you can load it as a weight, and now we have this smooth. This is why it's a bit better than using the facets, because with the facets you can't have smooth gradients, but with this you can. So you can do, your tools will affect proportionally. So let's say you have a meshy material and you want to quickly export the textures into a folder. Well, you can just do something like this and click the export material, and it will do it for the active material. And now if you go to this folder, we can see that all the textures are here. It's a small thing, but it can really save time if you have a lot of materials. Then there's the inverse. You can import a material as well. So if we go to here, I took these textures from Polyhaven, and they usually come in this format. So you just select the folder with the textures, and it will detect them, and then you just do an import. And now if we go here, we can see that it's here as a slot. If we close this, we can see that the material has been constructed from the textures. You can also use the material replacer. So if you have some kind of asset like this, you can simply just replace materials like that. And it's going to remove the old material. So similar situation is like this. You don't want to have like duplicates of everything, which can happen if you're not careful. You can also export your selection as an asset to your active asset library. And you can make your own asset libraries, of course, from here, from the file paths. Just choose what folder and it will make them there. So you just select your thing and you click the export selection and as asset. You should enable the show one-to-one guide because this will show you exactly the thumbnail. And you can use the rendering engines. There's a Eevee and then there is the solid. So you can choose what kind of thing you want. You can also do a top-down view or a front or pretty much anything what you would like is possible here. You can also remove these by clicking the delete asset. This is permanent, so be careful. But it creates one file per selection, and it also embeds the license. So if you have some kind of a custom licensing, like so, do not steal, it would be embedded in the actual asset. So this is a very fast way of putting your licensing onto your assets. You can also change the preview scale with this, and you can have transparent film if you want the background to be transparent, like that. Pretty straightforward. You can also control the categories, so let's remove these other ones for now. And let's say you want these to be in the furniture category. Well, you would go here and you can make your own, like my furniture. Then you can do migrate your asset. It will create the category and it will move it here. So you don't have to figure that out. Because I don't know why, but you can't really move these by default. So the only way to move it is to choose your category here and then you do migrate and it will work. You can also remove a catalog from here if you don't like it, like that. And then any assets will go to the unassigned category. And that's pretty much it. That's all you need to know about the asset library tools. You can also export materials as assets. So if you have some kind of material like this, you just make sure that the active material is selected. And the asset name will reflect the material name. So this will be like bed. And then you just use shader ball or you don't. If you do use shader ball, you will get the... we have to change the name here. You'll get this kind of visualization. And if we put this on something like a cube, we can see that it's the same material of the bed. Sometimes this shader ball view isn't good enough though, so we'll use the normal preview, which is using the reticle here. Like so. And that's pretty much it for the material creation. Otherwise, it works the same way as the other parts of the asset creation. So let's say you have this kind of camera setup. where you have like a curve and a camera and it's taking 8 screenshots, and you want a sprite sheet, something Factorio, for example, uses for all of its models. So you would just basically make sure that the camera looks fine, and if you click this button, it will composite all of the frames into a single image. And you can also flip the axis if you are using DirectX instead of OpenGL, like so. So text animation is pretty awesome. This is something you can't really do even with geometry nodes. So the way this works is pretty simple. Let's add a new text object so you can do this. So if we have a text object, nothing of course happens. But if you have a valid text object, this will become, this text object panel will become usable. So you simply just add a keyframe, and this keyframe, whatever it is, as long as it's enabled, it will update the text. So I can do like hello or world, like that. But it doesn't change, and that's because it will prioritize the top text always. So if this is disabled, it's gonna go to the next enabled one, which is world, and if this is disabled, there's nothing here, so it's not gonna change. So it only uses the one that it has the most priority. And it becomes very powerful once you start to keyframe these. So let's disable both first. And at frame 5, let's enable world. And at 10, let's enable hello. So now we should get hello world, hello world, hello world. That's pretty cool. And you can add stuff at the end. So let's say we add a expression like frame. It's gonna concatenate the expression. And if you have something more complicated, you would have to put it in a expression. So if we do max frame divided by frame, we'll get this kind of math thing happening. You can get really I'll show you one more thing here. So if we do dec, which is decimal, and then we do parentheses, and then we do a period, and we do how many decimal points. So let's do 1. So that makes it a bit more cleaner. And I use this technique to make this dynamic version incrementation thing here, and it's dynamic. So based on the max frame and the current frame, it will always reach whatever number I set here. So you can get really creative with this. If you render the frames, you'll also get a sprite sheet with all of those. This might be useful if you want to like put a tag on each frame of your sprite sheet. You could use the text animation to embed that tag directly here. Very awesome. So the next tool is more of something you would use outside of Blender more than inside of it, but this allows you to generate your own LUT, and you can also apply it to an image to see how that LUT would look like. Now it will generate the identity LUT, which is the color representation of applying nothing to an image. So if we take this RGBQ and we apply this to this image called Ultibake, nothing should happen, basically. And nothing does happen. But if we apply some kind of transformation to this image, so let's say we take this image and we apply some kind of hue transformation to it. So without it, it looks like this, but if we apply this hue transformation, it looks a bit different. Now, what does this mean? Well, it's very simple to see what a LUT transformation would look like before you apply it. You just apply your image, target image. And in this case, it will turn the red into green. So if we apply the same thing to our LUT and we save it, Then if we load this image, we have it here. So this is our transformed lot image. Now if we take this transformed lot image and we apply it to our Ultibake image here, we'll see the transformation basically. And there we go. So you could do this in real time with a shader in Unity, Unreal, Godot, and it's really fast. Like this happens in less than a millisecond. So it's not a expensive operation to do, and you can get the power of whatever you have. So you could do this in Photoshop. You could apply the same kind of filters here. Let me just do it here. You could apply the same filter, and this would cause the same kind of conversion as we had with this one. So it's a really powerful way of controlling colors. This is a bit of an extreme case, but normally you would use this to slightly adjust the color space. And something you would see like in the Matrix, where everything has like a green tint. You would use this to apply that kind of transformation, basically. So last but not least, for the smaller tools, is the portfolio renderer. And this is something I made initially just to help with creating portfolio renders for assets. But I eventually decided to make it a part of Ultitools with a few more features. So the first one turns the materials of everything in the scene into wireframes. So if we enable this, we'll get this wireframe representation. We can also enable ambient occlusion to get a bit more detail, and we can modify the properties of these mesh details. You can go really crazy with this. You can also add a background, some kind of SVG or PNG, and then you can control how strong this background color is, like so. But let's keep it pretty weak for now, because it's very overwhelming, like so. You can add a vignette to add a bit more emphasis, and you can add some extra stuff to the object as well, like a stroke. Let's use a blue one for now. Like so. But let's get rid of these effects since they're pretty strong. Like so. The other part of this is the text stuff. So you can add your author name, the date, and information about the scene. You can configure this as much as you wish. As you can see, there are some hints at the bottom here showing you what kind of things you can use. If you delete these, you can also refresh, and this will bring the defaults. And here is an example of me changing these dynamic presets. So you can go as far as you can possibly go with these. The last part is probably something I already showed in the store page, but you can update this add-on from the actual add-on itself. You don't have to go into Blender Marketplace and figure out, oh, do I have the latest version? This will tell you